the same mood. We share the love. Embracing the differences like hand in glove. Spreading peace and joy, it's a beautiful sight. Together we shine in each other's light. Together we stand in love's pure mind. Watching the world in love. Hearts beating our peaceful flag. Colors of harmony, painting the night. Together we stand in love's pure mind.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to Watching the World. We have so much in store. Big news, big breaking news today in regards to Donald J. Trump. I told you guys when Mike Johnson would release the House, get him back, that Donald Trump would be back in the hot seat, and that's exactly what's happened. But we already have so many great people in the House. We have Bordeaux, we have AI, Smart Cities, we have Eric, Deborah. Thank you guys so much. We have JDP. Well, Eric has given us some rather sad news. He says his health insurance went up $70 to $80 a month. What in the world is going on? I thought we were supposed to be having better pricing all the way across the board, but what's happening? So we're going to get to it today. We have a special guest coming on today. Also, I can't wait. I have an ex-NBA player coming on the show as well. We have a celebrity mother coming on Monday night. We have so many great people coming on the show. So stay tuned, lock in with us. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. We're definitely growing. But then anyway, let's get to the news about the Democrats have released Donald Trump's big issue with Epstein emails. You know, these emails that everybody wanted to see. Well, some of them have been released. We have the emails. I have copies of the emails. We're going to go through it all today. So let's get started right away. Do not delay any further to see what's happening with Donald Trump. I know he must be sweating bullets today.
This breaking news we just teased. Just moments ago, the House Oversight Committee released never-before-seen emails from Jeffrey Epstein's estate, which include correspondence between Epstein and his longtime co-conspirator, Ghislaine Maxwell, currently incarcerated on sex trafficking charges. Let's now bring in MSNBC Justice and Intelligence reporter Ken Dilanian, who has been digging through these emails. Ken, what have we learned so far?
Good morning, Jonathan. Well, look, the Epstein estate has released some 23,000 emails, and House Democrats have been poring over them, and they found some correspondence directly mentioning Donald Trump by name. They've released 3 of these emails, and they're quite interesting. The first one was between Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein back in 2011, where Epstein wrote that Donald Trump spent hours at my house with an unnamed victim of sex trafficking, whose name is redacted in the email. And Epstein referred to Trump as the dog that hasn't barked. And then in a separate email years later with author Michael Wolff in 2019, Epstein said explicitly that Donald Trump, quote, knew about the girls as he asked Ghislaine to stop. And then the Democrats cite another email with Wolff in 2015, where Epstein and Wolff are discussing if they can craft an answer for an upcoming Donald Trump interview.
So there you have it. Epstein mentions in these emails that Donald Trump was at his house with a female for hours. Now, her name has been redacted, but I'm pretty sure the Department of Justice know who the party is. And perhaps earlier in the year, remember, we heard that, well, there's no files, and then there are files, and they kept going back and forth. And finally, they said Donald Trump was in the files. Well, these details are starting to trickle out, folks. Check it out.
And Wolff sort of suggests that Epstein has leverage over Donald Trump, saying if he says he hasn't been on the plane or to the
please take a moment, hit the like button, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much for the support.
House, then that gives you valuable PR and political currency. Now, look, Jeffrey Epstein, it was a manipulative monster. And so you really can't take anything he says to the bank here. But this is important evidence that people trying to understand what Donald Trump's relationship was with Jeffrey Epstein and what his role was and where he was and did he go to the House. This is important evidence that fills in some blanks on that picture.
So tell us what you think in the comments. Do you think this kind of shows that Donald Trump was involved a little bit deeper than Epstein than meets the eye, especially when it comes to the girls?
Democrats believe there are more to come from these emails that have been released by the Epstein estate. John.
And we should note our friend Joyce Vance notes on Twitter just now, she's also pouring through these emails, that one of them dates from 2011 when Epstein would have had really little incentive to lie. And it's well before Trump's political career, of course. So this is, Ken, the story that Donald Trump just wants to go away. And he's done a pretty good job, I guess, of telling MAGA influencers, hey, stop talking about this. He kind of quelled that rebellion that we saw over the summer. There's a real belief that Speaker Johnson sent the House home when he did, in part to not talk about Epstein and not swear in.
Okay, so let's see here what some of you guys are saying. AI Smart City says no face, no case. Okay, Carol Harris says he wasn't on the plane. Okay. Electro P says his name was on the flight logs. Okay. Carol Harris says Epstein is dead now anyway. Okay. Beza B says yes, he was very involved. Okay. KOT says makes sense. They were best buds. He definitely was there. Can't make this up. Okay. Thank you. Ma Dago says Epstein didn't unalive himself. Okay. Thank you for that information. Old Glory says, do I think the Democrats, the people that created the Steele dossier, Kavanaugh charges, Russiagate, and the New York fraud cases created something else to slander Trump? Okay, thank you. Old Glory says, what do you think? Okay, JDP says, like, share, and subscribe, and turn on your notifications to be notified. What do I think? I think that in these particular emails, Donald Trump was not involved in politics. So I think Epstein was writing normal correspondence. We'll get to it. Let's I have the email copies. We're going to go through it.
That Arizona Congresswoman-elect who is going to provide the decisive vote. So a couple of things here. I know you're still going through the emails, but this is, and we expect Johnson to do that swearing in later today. There's going to be more to come, right? And we should note Trump has long since challenged the credibility.
All right, so the swearing in is going to happen today. So we're going to get that vote, guys, in regards to the Epstein files.
Of Michael Wolff on other matters, but we'll see. He's getting these emails from Epstein too. What else should we expect? Not just potentially from these emails, but from what new material may still be coming?
Well, look, I mean, there's got to be more information that sheds light on Donald Trump's longtime relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Whether it's incriminating to Donald Trump remains to be seen, but it's got to be there in those emails and elsewhere in the files. And in fact, we know that Trump was told that his name was in the quote unquote Epstein files, the unreleased information from the Justice Department. Again, we've always been told that there's nothing in that material that
Okay, 993 says unless they have an email from Trump admitting he partook or video or photo proof, it's hearsay, and I don't buy the bullshit anymore. Then I did the bogus Russiagate, January the 6th insurrection, lie, Dems, try. Thank you so much for that comment. AI says wonderful. Okay. JDP says, let's press the like button. Let's have at it, folks.
Incriminates others to the point where they should have been charged. That's what investigators have always said, long before this became an issue of controversy. But you're absolutely right. As a political matter, it's just so interesting.
So in this particular letter, we're going to go through it, but it's redacted the female's name. But Epstein says that Donald Trump was with her for hours at his house. He did not say at the island, but he says at his house.
Because the MAGA world has long believed that there's a conspiracy to cover up what happened with Jeffrey Epstein. Well, now the people who have control of the material is the Trump administration. And so, but yet the MAGA folks have not turned their fire on Donald Trump personally. They've been very mad at Pam Bondi and Kash Patel, the FBI director, for what they consider inaction and not releasing these files. And so far, the Justice Department's position is we're not releasing anything more. So But this, as you said, this is a live political issue. The interesting question is going to be, do these emails or does other information cause anyone in the MAGA movement to start turning their attention to Donald Trump and asking him what he...
Okay, so keep telling us what you think, guys. Roberto, thanks. Nice to have you here. He says, why is it that the people cannot handle the truth? That's a very good question. A lot of people don't want to hear it. Fox is not reporting on this, so we're going to go over to CNN to see what they're saying as well. I was shocked that Fox is not saying a word.
This is CNN Breaking News.
All right, we do have breaking news in the Jeffrey Epstein investigation. Democrats on the House Oversight Committee, minutes ago, literally, releasing emails that they say were written by Jeffrey Epstein that explicitly, specifically mentioned Donald Trump by name and in context that we really haven't heard before.
Now, keep in mind what happened to Prince Andrew. He's taken the ultimate hit. He's lost his living arrangements, probably tons of money, and his titles, because that's how serious they're taking this matter. Fatima says he just keeps lying, the idiot. Okay. Bobby says, why do the Democrats always want to find blame on Trump, but sit on their hands when they're accused of lying on Trump? Okay. Deborah says, independent media. It's what's up, Mel. Thank you. We stay independent, and it's awesome to be that way. Roberto says Fox News is not saying nothing because they cannot handle the truth. Okay. Turn says, what happened to the last 4 years under Biden administration? Nothing. It's a dang shame. Okay. Amen.
Let's get right to Caitlin Collins, who's got this reporting. Caitlin, what are you learning?
Yeah, John, these are emails that show Jeffrey Epstein mentioning Donald Trump by name multiple times in private correspondence that he had with people, including Ghislaine Maxwell, obviously his longtime associate and accomplice, and also the author Michael Wolff, in a time span of about the last 15 years or so in these emails. Now, these are coming out from the House Oversight Committee. They had issued a bipartisan subpoena to Jeffrey Epstein's estate, John, as you know, earlier this year. And so they've gotten their hands on a trove of documents. And these are...
I have the emails. We're going to go through them after this video. Just hang tight. We're going to see what the actual emails say, the copies.
Emails that included Jeffrey Epstein on them. They were sent either to him or from him that mentioned Donald Trump before he was in office and also while he was in office during his first term. And I want to walk you through these emails of what exactly we are reading in Jeffrey Epstein's own words in these emails that have been released by the House Oversight Committee. And in one of them, Jeffrey Epstein says, and I should note, Trump did not send or receive any of these messages. He's not a...
Okay. All right. We're going to take a minute to pause here. And I'm going to welcome to the show Candace Kelly, so she can also listen to this video with us. Candace, welcome in. How are you doing?
Doing well today. How are you?
Quite well, quite well.
Yeah, this is some news. Always very divisive in terms of Epstein, but these are files that are going to be put right back on people's plates because they've been wanting to hear about them, Democrats and Republicans alike now.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to get to the video, and I'm going to try to rearrange the screen here for you. Let's see. Okay, we'll get a little bit better than that. All right, there we go. So let's get to the video, and then we'll chat about it. Thanks for joining us. It's always a pleasure to have you.
Sure thing.
Party to these emails, John, but these are emails from Jeffrey Epstein to Ghislaine Maxwell. This is one from April 2nd, 2011, and in this email, Jeffrey Epstein writes to Ghislaine Maxwell and says, quote, I want you to realize that the dog that hasn't barked is Trump. There's a name that's redacted, which the House Oversight Committee has said is a victim of Jeffrey Epstein's. Obviously, we have not been able to independently confirm that because her name is redacted from this email. But they say redacted spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned, police chief, etc. I'm 75% there. Ghislaine Maxwell responds to that email, John, and says, quote, I have been thinking about that. Now, there's no context for that message in this release of what we're getting. Obviously, this was a time span, and this was about 3 years after Jeffrey Epstein had accepted what is now known as that sweetheart deal.
So, Candace, they actually have the victim's name redacted so they know who this person is. Why do you think we are so slow along with the process of this case or issue?
Well, one of the things that we want to make sure in all of this is we want to make sure that victims are protected. While the names might be important to someone, the protecting of their identity is actually more important because these are people who have either filed for sexual assault or there's some legal paperwork that is on file where they are victims. And we, in the judicial system, do protect victims of sexual assault. So, with that being said, that's where we are, I think what's more interesting, though, and again, this is something, that Trump was not on these emails. I want to make sure people know that. But this is something that, as we know, it was brought up because this is what Democrats and Republicans wanted to see, these Epstein files, these files that Trump ran on. Terrible timing for anyone at any time, but especially now in the middle of a shutdown, and especially now in the middle of a time where Trump thought, hey, didn't we move on from this? Because this was certainly his disposition, and this is what he wants people to believe and think. We are talking about dozens of victims, though. This will not go away. And now that this Pandora's box for him has been opened, we are going to see more out of this box. I'm not saying that this is incriminating, but this does not look good for Trump at all to be amidst anybody who has claimed that they are a victim of sexual assault or rape. He actually is trying to overturn right now his conviction of sexual assault at this time. So he doesn't want that on his record. I'm sure that you're very surprised too about all of this. Maybe the timing. Doesn't it seem interesting?
Yeah, quite interesting, I must say.
Yeah, and I think another thing to remember too is that here we are in the middle of this shutdown, and we get these particular emails at this time that Michael Wolff, the author, was on. And the reason that Michael Wolff is important is because he's written about 4 books about Trump and the Trump administration, 4 New York Times best-selling books. So this is information that also went to him. He was on this email. Ghislaine Maxwell was on this email. She also recently filed to have her conviction overturned, but that was refused. And so, him being known about his books in the Trump presidency and having recorded hours of conversations with Epstein, also very interesting because this isn't something that was made public. So now here we are, and I'm wondering what Michael Wolff has to say about all of this in the midst of all of this chaos. This is definitely causing chaos. And now we're just waiting for a response. I don't think as of now we've heard anything from Trump. We know that is how he functions. He puts information out on Truth Social, wondering what he's going to say to all of this, but I know he will not keep quiet.
Okay, so let's get to the emails. We have 3 pages that have been released by the Democrats, at least. Ghislaine Maxwell says to Epstein, I have been thinking about that. Okay. And this email came on high alert. So then Jeffrey Epstein writes back to Ghislaine, says, I want you to realize that that dog that hasn't barked is Trump. And then the victim's name is redacted, spent hours at my house with him. So he's saying that this girl spent hours at his house with Trump.
Right.
And he has never once been mentioned, police chief, etc. I'm 75% there. What do you think about that?
There is so much context that we are missing. It is hard to say. However, I think that one of the things that we can clearly see is that the victim spent hours at his house, meaning his, right, Epstein, with Trump. All right. And if we look at the context of this, that is the takeaway. Unless there was some email that was in between this, that is what I would read, and that is what we are inferring as journalists and as keen observers of all of this that's unfolding. He's never once been mentioned. He, meaning Trump, right? So when we talk about a dog that barks, we're talking about someone that has said something or not. And he is saying that this dog has not barked. And I think that the silence that Trump has had might be indicative of where we are, because he has kept silent about this, saying that he wasn't involved in anything wrong, no wrongdoing. And because of that, that has helped him. This is an email that kind of makes that dog bark in a way that I don't think anybody in his administration wanted. Again, a lot of context is missing. We do not know if this is, in fact, I mean, someone might say, hey, there was a missing email. We have to leave the door open for everything, because I assure you that some things are coming down the pike that we're going to have to interpret again that might add confusion to the mix of an email that seems on its face that it says what it says. And we know how that goes.
Right. So Michael Wolff, who was Epstein's biographer and also Donald Trump to a certain extent, he wrote several books, interviewed them several times. He often speaks about it. He's getting sued right now, I believe, by Donald Trump as well. But anyway, on January 31st, 2019, Jeffrey Epstein writes to him. He mentions the victim's name, Mar-a-Lago. It's all redacted, and then says, Trump said he had asked me to resign. Never a member ever. Of course, he knew about the girls, as he asked Ghislaine to stop. Wow.
Yeah. So again, that looks like more involvement. Again, we're just reading the tea right here. But it is showing that perhaps based on his information or his gut instinct that, hey, he knew about the girls and he asked Ghislaine to stop. Again, context is missing. We have to leave the door open for whatever the defendant says. I say defendant, not that there's a lawsuit, but whatever the accused says, if you will, in this, and that being Trump. But it seems, and what people are taking away from this is that, hey, Trump knew about this and he asked Ghislaine to stop. Stop what? We don't know. All right. So a lot of context missing, but something was going on here that should have been stopped, and Trump wanted stopped. That's my takeaway. Do you take away a different read?
Yeah, I take away a different read. It also seems like in the background things are heating up and there's a lot of media action. It seems like Epstein has already been questioned by several sources, I would say at this point. This is just my perception. And so
Yes.
now they're having some dialogue about it, saying, the heat is on, but Donald Trump is the only one that hasn't squealed, basically, when he says or barked, right?
Yeah, and there was I believe one of the British tabloids had put out a very long piece about this at this time. And so this might be a response in terms of okay, well, Trump has it barked, like based upon these articles and information that are coming out, just like you said, Mel, there's a lot of heat going on, but Trump hasn't barked. So that's the 1 and 1 making 2 for a lot of people who are looking at this.
And I know that in the MAGA world, they're saying that Donald Trump was an FBI informant. That's why perhaps he was in these people, places, and things, allegedly.
Yeah, and the conspiracy theorists are always there. You just never know. We never knew about this until we got these actual emails, which are just a few of about 23,000, right? So we have to take everything with a keen eye and look at it. And we have to take everything with a grain of salt because of context that's missing. I mean, think about when you write emails and texts, you don't include everything because you know that the other person on the other side has a lot of knowledge. So there's a lot we don't know. But from what we can see, whether it's a conspiracy theorist or not everybody has all of the information. But the information that we do have, there seems to be a little bit of a problem now.
Okay. Here's the third exhibit from the emails. Michael Wolff responds back to Jeffrey Epstein in 2015. He says, I think you should let him hang himself. If he says he hasn't been on the plane or to the house, then that gives you a valuable PR and political currency. You can hang him in a way that potentially generates positive benefit for you, or if it really looks like he could win, you could save him generating a debt. Of course, it is possible that when asked, he'll say Jeffrey is a great guy and has gotten a raw deal and is a victim of political correctness, which is to be outlawed in the Trump regime.
Now this one right here, this is more than just, a few ellipses and we got to fill in the blanks. This is Michael Wolff saying, hey, listen, you can use this to your advantage and go ahead and let Trump hang himself. I think that Michael Wolff, more than Trump, that is whose social media accounts and interviews that we need to look for. You can hang him in a way that politically generates a positive benefit for you. Or if it really looks like he could win, right, which we're saying what, the presidency, I'm assuming, because this is 2015,
Correct.
that email that you just read, generating a debt, again, another win for the Gizanes and the Jeffries of the world. And then he says what we all know. Of course, Trump could just say, you know what? I don't know. He's a good guy. I got a raw deal, which typically now we see that as this type of conversation that he puts out there that does kind of move him from A to B. So, there's so many things in this. This is not listen, we're going to be talking about this for the next few weeks, next few months, because now that this door has opened, what else out of these 23,000 emails is coming? I want to ask the audience, what do you think is coming, right? These 23,000 emails, this is just a few.
Yeah, just a few. A lot of people in the audience are saying it's fake news.
Okay.
Let's see. Roberto says it sounds to me Donald Trump and Epstein was competing.
You know what? So I would say this, that once you get these emails and they've been verified from various organizations, people can make the decision that they want to, whether to believe them or not. I mean, that's just the truth. You're going to have people on both sides saying what actually works for them. But with the same token, and this is, I'm a professor and I teach young people and people how to look at the news. You have to have your eyes open and look and see, all right, what is it that's going on, instead of just saying fake news, fake news, fake news. I always look at both sides. That's why from the beginning I've been saying, well, what's the context for this? We are missing some information. And I think that's a fair way to look at this and all news. You have to be open to saying, all right, what's the truth? We don't know. But in the meantime, we know how to look up information. We know how to Google. We know information that's been let out by these reports. Just have a keen eye and be aware that the story could change 100% in the next 10 minutes. That's how you have to look at the news. And you just have to be really aggressive in understanding what you are reading. So now what we're reading is we're just taking things at their face value. So I want everybody to understand this isn't a left or right thing or Democratic or Republican thing. This is, look at these emails, look at what we have. What do we think it could possibly mean? That's all.
Okay, very good. Now let's move on to a different subject while I have you here. I know you're a law professor, so it's nice to get those inside statements from you with all your wisdom. When we covered Diddy's trial, we were right by the ICE headquarters, at least for New York City.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of them, when they were arresting people, especially like with the protests that I covered, they'd have their faces covered. So the FBI has issued a memo about them covering their faces. Could we check that out and then have you expound upon it?
Yeah. Let's take a look at that.
Fullerton, California, this week, police came across a man pointing a gun at a woman on a busy street. He identified himself as an ICE agent and said he felt like she was following him. Joining us now, staff writer at The Atlantic, Nick Miroff. He covers immigration and the Department of Homeland Security and just wrote about the issue of ICE agents wearing face masks. And he says those face mask coverings aren't going anywhere. All right, so Nick, good to have you. Let's talk about the masks. FBI wants them to stop wearing them. Why would they not listen?
Well, I think we've seen other federal agencies that are assisting ICE in this mass deportation campaign quickly adopt the same, face coverings. One veteran ICE official I talked to said that the FBI agents and the other agencies from the Department of Justice seem even more keen to wear masks than ICE officers, because they don't really want to be there. And so I think there's broad concern about.
I'd like to ask you guys to hit the like button. Candace, let me ask you, have you actually seen these ICE employees with their face covered before?
Yeah, I have, and one of the things that I've been looking at is the identification process that people online are doing with various AI work. And I've also been seeing many, many videos of people alleging to be ICE agents, and they are not ICE agents. And there's been a really robust discussion about making sure that we know who the arresting agents are so that we know that it's legitimate. The same way that you might want to know who is stopping you on the side of the road at 2 a.m. in the morning, because you can go online on Amazon and get a police uniform or an FBI uniform, and you can be an FBI agent overnight. So that's those are some of the issues that we are dealing with now in terms of one's right to see who they're arresting, who's arresting them, and then another being the FBI's agent's right to say, hey, I don't want any harm done to my family, and I don't want people coming to my home because they know who I am. But I will say this, I want to hear from the audience if they think if that is actually part of the job, and that if you sign up for a job, you do need to show who you are. Or are we in a space where it's so dangerous to show who you are as an FBI agent or an ICE agent that, yeah, let's go ahead and put those masks up there? That is to be debated. I know that personally, and this is just my opinion, if I were being stopped by a police officer and it was 2 a.m. and someone, pulled me over, I'd want to see a name and a badge. That's the only way you know that it's legitimate, or that I'm out here on these streets about to lose my life from someone who's perpetrating. So I think that those are the issues that people need to determine, and that's what's being decided by the FBI and all parties involved right now.
Hey guys, Candace teaches the law, so it's so amazing to have her here chatting with us about the law. So we're going to be covering Luigi Mangione's case together. So guys, definitely tune in to this channel. We're so blessed to have high-level individuals such as Candace. Now, Roberto says, my love and respect to her. So you have quite a few fans in the audience. I just want to ask you, though, is there any opportunity here for people to sue ICE because they're getting thrown around?
Yeah, there's always the opportunity to sue anybody for anything. So let me just break down. Yes, if you are suing ICE because you have been wrongfully imprisoned by them, right? Because they arrested you, had no right to do it, that would be a wrongful imprisonment. You could also have a case of infliction of emotional distress and sue them because certainly if you're detained by ICE overnight, or even if for 10 minutes, you could sue for that emotional distress that takes place during that time. You could also sue based upon your civil rights being taken away from you because there was no due process. And for people who are familiar with due process, we understand that means that before anything happens where your rights are taken away, you are afforded a process by the law that you are to hear from your accuser, be heard by someone who could determine whether or not your rights and liberty should be taken away. So if an ICE agent improperly and falsely takes away all of those rights, you also have that particular legal process that you can pursue. So there are many, many ways that you can sue. And I would imagine if anybody just Google right now, ICE agents sued, I am sure, I don't even have to Google, I am sure there are people who have sued and are suing right now because, in fact, if they were who they said they were, then a lawsuit should be afforded. A lawsuit is in order, and they should be heard by our judicial system.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's go back to the video here.
The effect that this is having, on the image of these agencies, even though nobody really expects the mask to come off anytime soon.
How big of a problem are these impersonations?
Well, there have been several, instances already of criminals using masks, claiming to be, federal officers or agents in order to rob people or abuse people in some way or another. And it all points to a deterioration of trust. I mean, one of the reasons why police officers show their faces and have name tags on their uniforms is to give people confidence that they are who they say they are and that they should be trusted. And so if you have officers of the law going around looking like bank robbers or stagecoach robbers with gaiters over their faces, they certainly don't reassure anyone that they're that they represent the law, and it's understandable that people would be confused and lose trust.
How is this any different than what we expect and demand of our regular law enforcement officers? I mean, they've got to wear a badge, they have badge numbers, their names are on their uniforms, they're not masked. If a regular police officer who is upholding the law on the streets of this country does not wear a mask and is easily identifiable, why can these ICE agents, these federal agents, hide who they are, hide their identities? I don't understand the two sets of rules.
Well, really this points to a major difference between policing by state and local authorities versus federal authorities. If we think about this, the police officers in your city or town are accountable to the elected officials of your local jurisdiction, of the mayor, and they have spent, decades trying to gain the trust of the community. The community pays their salaries, and they have uniforms. They represent your city, your community. They want people to know who they are and to trust them, and they are in it for the long haul. Federal agencies like ICE, like these Border Patrol agents that have been deployed to places like LA and Chicago, are accountable really to the White House and to faraway federal agencies, and there's almost no local control over what they're doing. And
okay, so what do you think about that, Candace? This is a question we get often on the channel.
Yeah, well, the question does become, you're putting families at risk, right? I mean, that's at the end of the day what you are asking of everybody who's involved. And now, listen, we're in 2025. So if I'm a family member of someone who's an ICE agent, who I believe, let's say they're 100% doing their job right, let's say they've arrested all the people who are illegally supposed to be here, that is a risk. That is a risk. And we just have to, at this point, determine how we manage this risk, because we're taxpayers and we're paying for local police. We're taxpayers and we're paying for all of these institutions to work, right? The FBI, that's what we pay taxes for. That part of it goes into managing and making sure that they do what they're supposed to do. Do we want them to be doxxed and be put in harm's way? We do not. The question is, what is the answer? And that's what's being debated right now. Now, a lot of this is going to happen in the courts. And a lot of it is happening just in the court of public opinion. A lot of this is being unfolded in what we're seeing now, which is just not just, but the FBI requesting, hey, ICE agents, please take down your masks. I do not know if that's going to be a good thing for the ICE agents. There are a lot of ICE agents who are doing their job. Bottom line, they signed up for it. They're ICE agents and they're carrying out what they're being told to do. So there's a lot of issues and moving pieces on all sides to try to consider to make sure that everybody stays safe. There is no answer right now that we're going to have at 12:39 on this call, but there are issues that we can point out that we know people have to talk about and also bring to their local community police. That's part of this too. There's a civic responsibility for all of us to kind of speak up and make sure that our voices are heard at local meetings and things of that nature, so we can determine how our police and how our FBI agents are treated.
Okay, Jonathan Ruzo says, yeah, put the ICE officers and their families at risk. Also, corporate America, irresponsible behavior is selling fake ICE uniforms. Like, this is a freaking despicable.
Well, and that's true. I mean, there's no reason why I should be able to buy an ICE uniform online. First and foremost. And the people who, you might go to a local print shop to get an ICE agent uniform. There's got to be some consequences to that. It's just like me, can I go out and can I be a doctor and put on, scrubs and then work on someone's mouth because I say I'm a dentist? which, by the way, is a real headline until this person got caught, but that's against the law. So there has to be some consequences for that.
Okay, so one more point I'd like to have you take a look at. I know you're very busy before you leave. This is involving New York. As you know, Mamdani he won last week. So let's check this out.
All right.
Reality sets in. Our next guest has a warning for New York and the country about Zohran Mamdani. He calls Mamdani a Trojan horse for the Red-Green Alliance. We first introduced you to this alliance months ago on this show. It's two groups you'd think have very different philosophies, but they're united in their distaste for the West. The red is Marxism. The green is Islamism. The Middle East Forum describes it as, quote, an alliance of convenience between leftists, including progressive, socialist, and communist on the one hand, and on the other hand, Islamists, Muslims who actively pursue the political goals of Islam, such as Islamic supremacism, and the punishment of those non-compliant with Islam. They went on to say, what commonalities bring these two disparate collectives together? Both leftists and Islamists hate Western countries and Western civilization, especially the United States of America. Joining me now, the son of the founding Hamas leader, Mossab Hassan Youssef. Mossab, thank you for being with us here today. First, let's just start with this. With your background and your knowledge, the Red-Green Alliance, it doesn't make any sense. How could a socialist furry marching down the streets of New York have something in common with, perhaps, Hamas? So how does it work? Is it real?
Actually, they are opposing forces. And the reality is that we have been invaded. Today, we don't need Trojan horses to invade or to infiltrate our borders. We have been invaded through the internet. The communist countries, North Korea, China, Russia, they have been working around the clock to flood our internet, our social media with their propaganda. So they paved the way. They created the climate for somebody like Mamdani to come and represent their ideologies. On the other hand, also we have Qatar, we have Arab oil countries, we have Pakistan, we have other Muslim countries that basically posing as white people, as Americans, and they have been spreading Islamic indoctrination.
All right, Candace. So he's saying basically America has been infiltrated. What do you think about this? Okay, so I guess she is gone. All right. So at any rate, we're going to finish this video and then I'll get to the comments.
Through the Muslim Brotherhood, through other platforms. Now, the average American really does not understand the green and red danger. This is the job of the CIA, of the FBI, intelligence services. They understand this danger. Now, the new generation of Americans, they really don't know the history, the long war between capitalism, or let's say the United States.
All right. So by means of this video, he's saying that America has been compromised, especially with the new installment of Mamdani.
Yeah, so I actually, my computer heated up. I don't know, maybe it's all these people's hot conversations in the stream, but it heated up and it shut down on me. So I did not hear the whole thing. But here's what I have to say, and this is with anybody. Let's wait and see. You know what I mean? Let's wait and see. Let's wait and see with Mamdani. I know that people are very, very either enthusiastic or not about this man. Is he a socialist or not? Is he a communist or not? Is he going to, give us free groceries and free busing or not? You know what? Let's see, because we are not there yet. Let's see what this man is actually about, not in theory, but in practice. Of course, a lot of people will have a lot to say about that and that they have seen his practices, but let's see what he is going to do as mayor. This is a different position, and I think that the door is open. One thing I really try not to do is say, okay, this guy is going to be this way and this guy is going to be that way. We know by his record that he says he is not a lot of these things that people are saying about him. And so for that, let's see what he can show and prove, right? It's not really what you say, but it's what you do. And let's see. Let's see.
Well, that's a great attitude to have. Thank you so much for that. Let's see. Let's get a comment here. JDP says like, share, and subscribe. Mike says there's a reason why most Democrat leaders did not want to endorse a socialist in New York.
You know what? There's a reason also too why he won the race. Let's go there, right? And let's see. Even at the midnight hour of Trump supporting him, and who else? I'm losing my way. Who else supported him? Of supporters at the midnight hour, it didn't do what they thought he would do. Then we also have to look at the elections across the country and the seats gained by the Democrats. What is all of this saying? And that's one thing that folks can't refute. When we look at these numbers, what is all of this saying about how we see politics, how we see ourselves, and what we want in the middle still of this shutdown? Albeit, hopefully, it's almost coming to an end. But even when it comes to an end, it's not going to be 100% to an end, Mel. We know that things are going to still be unfolding and still things are going to be on hold. People want something new. Now, that's what I get from Mamdani. Because when we talk about something new, he is new in so many respects, right? This man is rapping, he's dancing, he's Muslim, he's doing all these things all at the same time. And I think people, because of the dire state that they are in, they want answers. And he's got high expectations to which he has to rise. So let's see if he meets them.
Exactly. So we started off talking about Donald Trump. It'll be quite intriguing to see how this all develops, especially with the individual's name being redacted. You know how it works in the media. But eventually the names all come out and see what difference that makes in regards to this case, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, I like keep it pushing. He or she says, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. I like that, right? You always have got to be ready in every sense of the word. I think that speaks to every single issue that we've talked about today. Everybody's got to be ready and on their toes because, this world, the biggest export of America is information. And boy, do we take advantage of that. We have so much information, it sometimes makes you just stand still. You have to spend 20 minutes reading an article and 3 hours after figuring out what the heck is the truth. So be ready for it all yet, everybody. Be ready. And be keen in the way that you read a piece of news. I think that's also a takeaway from all these discussions that we're having. It's not the, what's the truth or not. It's what people can actually prove. And you got to look for the evidence. The truth is somewhere in there.
Right. So, Candace, guess what? I have some unpleasant news.
Uh-oh.
We have reached our time.
That is unpleasant. But you know what? That's not as bad as some of the news that's going on out there in the world. So I appreciate this. I love seeing everybody on there. Keep having the conversation. It matters.
Yes, indeed. And we'll continue to cover Donald Trump. And also, could you just tell them really briefly before you leave what we're doing with Luigi Mangione?
Yeah, Luigi Mangione, as a lot of people know, his trial is coming up in January, and we are going to be on the case, literally and figuratively. There are a lot of components about Luigi, and so we're going to be separating them so that people can understand and get in the minds of the attorneys so that when we go to trial, and I say we because we'll be following it, we go to trial in January looking at Mangione, we know exactly what's going on from his background to his trip abroad. Who was this author that he met over in Thailand? And, what exactly is the sickness that he has that maybe compelled him to do this? And to get in the mind of someone who thinks like this, a very bright individual who appreciated what the Unabomber had to say, So all of those elements we're going to break down before we get to the trial. It's going to be here before we know it, Mel. It's kind of like Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Yeah,
All right,
December 1st. Yeah, December
Yes,
1st, we have a hearing, right?
exactly. December 1st, we have a hearing. So we'll be following all of that. And this is one that really kind of permeates society in a different way, because we're not just talking about, a hip hop mogul, right? You and I did Sean Combs. We are talking about the healthcare system, the same healthcare system that has stopped the government from functioning. That's what the debate is about. And that is what Luigi is actually, in his eyes, what he was fighting for. But we also have to talk about the man who was shot, right? Brian Thompson. He cannot get lost in this equation, no matter what side you are on. You can't be a vigilante. But then at the end of the day, as we've been doing, and I'll end on this, you have to look at the evidence. And that's what we're going to be looking at. You and I, Mel, and I look forward to it.
All right, I do too. Thank you so much, Candace. It's always a pleasure to have you on. And thank you to everyone who tuned in today. You guys definitely, I know you appreciate having Candace come on and share her law expertise with us. It's such a pleasure. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you to everybody who took the time to like, who took the time to share, and who subscribed to the channel. And not only that, some have even hit the notification so that when we come on live, you get a chance to be first in line, like Bordeaux and JDP and all the great people we have here, like Deborah, Eric, and so many more. So thank you so much, and we will definitely catch you tomorrow at noon for News at Noon, where we discuss the hot topics. Tomorrow, we will keep you abreast to what's happening with Donald Trump and so many other great cases. Thank you.
Different voices, but the same song. Building a world where we all belong. Kindness leading the way, breaking the chains. In the symphony of love, the thing remains. Embracing diversity, brighter days in sight. Watching the world sharing love and light. Hearts beating as one in our peaceful flight. Colors of harmony, painting the night. United we stand in love's pure might. Watching the world sharing love and light. Hearts beating as one in our peaceful flight. The colors of harmony, painting the night. United we stand in love's pure might.